What is up, Internet? Welcome back to the basement. Last time. This is going to be an emotional stream for me. It's time to say goodbye to the basement. What is up, Internet?
Oh, and I have
welcome back.
Audio coming through another
to
way.
Every time I haven't streamed in forever, it's just like all kinds of tech problems. All right. And I'm getting emails. You're now live. Uh-huh. Who opened the mail app? That's what I want to know. Who uses that? Does anyone here use the native mail app in Mac? Because I don't. Let me make sure that, well, I guess I already heard it. We're doing stuff. All right. So back to the issue at hand. We are saying goodbye to the basement. This is the last stream I will ever do sitting in this room. This is it. We got to pack up all this. Got the whole equipment stuff still set up. Everything else pretty much torn down. Everything in the house boxed up. We packed away all our clothes yesterday. Everything is set. We have a big old check that we gave to the lawyer. Everything is set. Friday, we moved to our new house. We're very, very excited for that. And I'm realizing the chat is all messed up. You know what we're going to do? Going to try a few different things here. Let's go darken. I'm not sure if I like that one. Let's go multiply. Nope. Color burn. Nope. We're just doing all these things again. White walls matter. Well, I mean, like a little bit. All of these are awful. This is what welcome back, guys. If you guys were like, I'm sure Dean's got things handled by now. He's only streamed like a couple times. Nope, I haven't been working on anything about this. Let's just go. Let's go normal. No, let's not. Let's go darken. And we'll leave it with that. Here's what we'll do. We'll do this. This is what I do, guys. You guys know how it is. We'll go like that, and we'll go right to the edge there, and we'll call that good. That's what we're doing today. All right, so it's going to look a little janky over here. I'll try not to get my hands over it, because then it just looks horrible. All right, so we're saying goodbye to the basement, but we're not just chilling. We could chill. You could throw in questions if you have them, things maybe that have been going on over the last couple weeks that you want me to kind of touch on. There's been a lot of stuff. A lot of things have happened over the last week that I've been wanting to talk about. There have been a couple times when I was like, I made the thumbnails and I was just like, oh yeah, if tonight we'll be doing stuff and I'll be, talking about this. And then also, we've been packing up everything, which is, anyone who's moved, you guys get it. Like once you actually have like a family and there's so many belongings and you've been in a place, like this is probably the longest we've been in a place in the last, 5 or 6 years. So there's a lot of stuff to pack up, but also we've been dealing with H's numbers have been crazy. He's finally normalized. Like today, it's like everything is good, but he was having growth spurts, and I'm figuring it was growth spurts because everything that we're supposed to do that works most of the time was just like not working at all. So we had to do a bunch of different things. So it's been crazy, and there've been things that I wanted to talk about that I just couldn't. And I thought, you know what? I need to do one last stream. I'm not going to leave this house without having said goodbye to the studio. I've really, I know it's kind of dumb, but this is where everything started. Like everything for Underdog Theology, for my movie channel, for YouTube in general has basically been right here in this basement. I've moved it around a few times. Like I had my studio set up first, actually right here. And then I moved it to the other side, and then I moved it over there, and it's just like constantly been moving around here in the basement. But it's going to be like weird to like go into a new spot. And like, again, for a little bit, it's still going to be a basement. I guess I shouldn't have put like from the basement for the last time, because technically when we move into the new house, until I fix up Underdog Studio, we're going to have an interim, and it's going to be in the basement. So, but it's going to look cool. I'm going to go all out, cause I want it, like, it'll probably be like 5 or 6 months down there before I fix up. Basically we have like a really, really amazing shed in our backyard. And it's kind of crazy that they fixed it up so nice, but they didn't put insulation. So I've got to do that. But, you know, cause it's winter time, and last week it was like -40. And if that happens with technology, you know, bye-bye technology. So I got to put all that stuff in it. So I'll be fixing it up this summer, but until then it's going to be down in the basement. So I'm moving from one basement to another, but I'm going to feel really weird that first stream in a different basement, because it's just like, I'm just so nostalgic about most things, as you guys have probably figured out by now. And I guess I'm a typical millennial like that, but this is where I met you guys. Like, we met here in this basement, and, you know, we got these like messed up yellow walls. I've tried my best, guys. I've done everything to try to cover these things up. This is what it really looks like down here. So you're getting the full basement treatment today. But next time you see me, it won't look like this. Hopefully it'll look pretty good. We're going to do some really fun stuff. I'm excited for it, but I wanted to have one stream where I could just kind of say goodbye to this nostalgic place, this place where we first met, and just, I don't know, give it some well wishes on its way out, you know? And then also I could take everything down. That's also a part of it. I need to get rid of the stuff, put these things in boxes and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the only reason why we're here. First, we want to say hi to everybody. And then I've got some stuff to talk about. Guys, some things have happened, and we're going to talk about IHOP Kansas City. They're still putting out crazy statements, so I want to break that down. And then we're going to talk about some Mark Driscoll, because some interesting things happened. Let's say hi to everyone, though. First, let me get this back up here. We have War Hardenstein is here, and he's saying all kinds of stuff that I have no idea what he's saying. I hope it's good. David Collins is here. What's up, man? He says, "What's up, family?" Yeah. All tech issues. Eyes purple crying. What does that even mean? Go out with some Steve Sker. It's never happening. That's so exciting. Congratulations. I appreciate it, David. It's going to be great. We got a lot of work to do. It's going to be a lot of work on the actual like house itself. Like, there's a lot of things that we need to do, but it's like not huge things. Like, it's just a lot of little things, and it's gonna take a bit, but we're super excited. You know, as a family, it's a big deal. Like, this is our first home. We've lived in parsonages. We've done townhouses. We rented houses before, but we've never owned our own house. So this is a big deal for us. We're very excited about it. Let's see. Lukewarm No More also says, sure. They're watching Toy Story upstairs. Oh, couldn't leave the basement without one more interruption. All right. Patrick Hines put out a good video on Uncle Doug. Oh no. I mean, he made me say it. I was like, you caught me. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. Usually I stop it in time before calling him that, but I'm out of it. And you took advantage of me being kind of out of it with streams. You worked it in. I guess he's uncle now. I don't know. Hey, what's up, Kip? And Elijah's here. It says, good to see you, Dean. As for me, I turned 21 last week. What? That's awesome. That is pretty dang cool, man. Congrats on your birthday. Congratulations to your mom. She did all the hard work. All right. David says, I guess folks are angry at Alistair Begg or whatever. All right, let's talk about that for a second. The Alistair Begg thing. If you don't know what he's talking about, there was a clip that went around. You guys remember like that awful, horrible, ridiculously bad take that random guy did. It's like Dark Evangelical Web or something like that. It's like Evangelical Dark Web, maybe. I don't know, whatever. That dude who did that awful take about Tim Keller right after he passed and was like, this guy was a heretic, so he's in hell. You remember that? That same guy found a clip of Alistair Begg answering a question of like, should you go to a wedding of a relative if the wedding isn't, again, I try to be careful about some things with YouTube, but to word it like the people aren't following biblical sexual ethics. All right. Like that's the way I'll put it for right now. And there's some letters attached to that. So should he go to the wedding? And, he gave his answer, and it's a hard one. It's a really hard one. It's probably the hardest question. Anyone who's been a pastor right now probably has had to figure this out. And like people come to you and ask, like, it's a real life question. And there's a lot of nuances attached of, people's emotions and people being like, you hate me if you don't come and support me. And like relationships can be cut off. And there's just so much baggage to this question. So Alistair Begg, who's well known for being like one of the best. I mean, like a year ago, we were all sharing the video, right? Like, or a year and a half ago or whatever. Like the man on the middle cross said, come. Everyone was happy with that, right? They love that. They'll share that. And then this clip comes out. It's a hit piece. And it's, he basically says that under certain circumstances that he would tell this old grandma to maybe go to this wedding of a family member who's having that kind of I'll put it, wedding. All right. So everyone within conservative circles, all these guys that we've talked about, that we've made videos about, they started sharing it and being like, well, goodbye, farewell, Alistair Begg, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of ridiculous. All right. Alistair Begg wasn't saying that you should affirm those kinds of relationships. He wasn't saying that, you should support the marriage, or that it is a biblical marriage, or, like there was so much that was like left out of that. He simply said, you should go under these circumstances, you should go and you should give a present. And I guess that's enough to like say he's the worst. Like, to say like all the decades of ministry that he's done. And like, you don't hear the stuff. It's not the same stuff. People might be like, well, don't you do that with John MacArthur? All these decades of faithfulness wiped away because of one story. This is not the same thing as that. This is a guy giving maybe a different answer than some of you would give, or maybe I would give. But, at the same time, he's still affirming biblical sexuality. He's still saying, these genders are there for a reason, like he's complementarian, like he still fits into all the same theological areas that all these guys do, but they're just so ready to write off pretty much anyone as soon as they don't fit into like every aspect of how they would basically practice their theology. So we're getting down to like, application and saying, if you don't apply things the same way I do, well, then you're, to use a Star Wars thing, then you truly are lost, like you're on the other side, you're on the dark side and you're an enemy now. They keep on doing that. And I think it's disingenuous. I think that it's just trying to build platforms. I know people would probably say the same thing about me. The difference is that we talk about like theology, things that are very clear, and that is just not clear as far as, if you are in a venue, there were so many nuances of that conversation too, of Alistair Begg giving all kinds of qualifications and saying like, hey, as long as, they know that you disagree and like all this stuff is lined up, then, hey, I could see where it could be this thing. And they just like, don't care. And it's just frustrating. So, they're just going at him. I think it's a witch hunt. They're just really trying to take someone down and build a platform off of that, and trying to like really just take one thing. When you take the entirety of Alistair Begg's statements around this issue, I think it's pretty clear what Alistair Begg really thinks about all the different things that might be attached to this. But they're not going to do that because they don't want to take the time for it, because they don't want to read all the books and look through all the sermons, and it doesn't fit like their agenda. Their agenda is right now, it seems like there's a real agenda from like the Joel Webbins, Eric Kahns, all those kinds of like up and coming, fundy, semi-reformed, like they're trying to say that they're reformed guys, that they're trying to discredit all the older guys. And the reason why is because they know that they can't get at the big boy table. And so why not just say the big boy table is icky? They got cooties at the big boy table, and over here at the little kid table where we're comfortably at, like we can, be right about this. And so everyone over there is wrong because they know that they can never overtake him, right? Like they're not going to ever be as influential as Alistair Begg. They're never going to be as influential as, John Piper. And so they're just going to discredit those guys. And they're not going to do it based off of things that they actually say and clearly say, hey, this is what I mean by this. They're going to take it and be like, well, he said this one thing in a question to an old grandma about bringing a gift to a wedding. So that means A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and just going through this whole thing. And Alistair Begg never said those things. He just said, hey, this is what I would advise, in order to keep a relationship and keep that door open. So, there's a lot of people who are probably going to be upset about what Alistair Begg said. But, I mean, if you talk to any pastor and you ask him that question, you're going to get a bunch of different answers, guys. And I'm not just saying across the spectrum of evangelicalism. You take one specific affiliation, denomination, organization, and you ask them that specific question, there's going to be tons of different answers. So it's just people trying to, bash the guy. And come on, man, I'm going to pick Alistair Begg over you so many times. Are you kidding me? I'm not taking what you think over Alistair Begg, even if I disagree with him, which again, I probably wouldn't word it the same way. As far as answering that question for myself, I would need a lot more information before I'd be like, this is what you do. But it's just I don't agree with Alistair Begg 100%, but I also don't think, there's all these implications that people are saying about it. No, not if you actually have listened to him, not if you've read his stuff, not if you actually know who that guy is at all. War Hardenstein has to go. That's so sad. Kip says, Joel Webbin is getting more and more scary. I am trying to confront him in the chat. Confront him in the chat? What chat? Is he streaming right now? I don't know. Johnny Appleseed. Well, that's what makes a fundy. Slide off one bit from the code and you get excommunicated, right? That's what it is. You don't, and it's never actual theology, guys. It pretty much never is. Unless someone changes something on, I don't know, how they view the gifts or something, and they could say that's theological enough that we can separate over this thing. But usually it's over dumb things that don't matter and shouldn't cause separation. But you disagree with how I'd handle this situation, or you listen to that, or you support that one teacher, so now you're excommunicated. It's always that. It's never here's an actual theological topic that we differ on enough that we cannot do ministry together, or that I cannot support your ministry. It's barely ever that. They just get ticked off all the time. Poor fundies. There's this one thing going on right now. Scott Barber, who is a guy here in Canada, a Twitter buddy, he posts a bunch of funny stuff, and it's always hilarious. I don't follow him because I have a rule. If you follow Doug Wilson, I'm not going to follow you. Or if I at least see that you're following Doug Wilson, I'm not going to. So I don't follow him, but you should. He's really funny, and he put out something about John MacArthur the other day, of John MacArthur at a stage at a podium being and that's when I had the idea to put my name on the Bible. And what's his face? Not Jordan Peterson, Justin Peters. I always have to go through that in my head between those two guys. I know I say it all the time, but it's true. That's how my brain works. But Justin Peters took that as like a serious thing. He's like, this is just a lie. Do you not understand humor? Do you not understand like sarcasm at all? Like this is a lie and I think you know it. Like, yeah, like it's a joke. Like, oh man, it's so funny. Fundies, they just don't know how to have a good time, you know? Like, it's just like, calm down, guy. It's like the movie Inside Out. If you like thought of a Fundy's head and inside, you know how you have all the different emotions. It's like 3 angers and 2 fears rather than like joy and sadness and like all the different emotions. It's just those 2. And they're just running the ship, you know. They're just in charge of everything. Lukewarm has to go. Got to go at work. See you at nighttime. Ooh, see you at nighttime. I guess we're going to hang out tonight. Cool. Johnny Appleseed. So we have the Reformed crowd eating each other. I mean, isn't that the case? It's been this way for about a decade now. It feels. David says, I think what AB said was thoughtful and practical. It really is a nuanced situation that the grandma will see the impact of for years to come, right? Like, it's so hard to make a judgment call on something like that and say, this is what you should do. Like, as like, and then apply it to everybody and say, this is what everyone should do in this situation. Life doesn't work like that. And anyone who's doing real ministry gets that, right? Like, these guys who have like these cookie cutter answers for everything. And like, even for like counseling scenarios, some of these books, they're like, oh, well, if someone does this, these are the steps that you take in every situation, and that will resolve the whole problem. It's like, people don't work like that. We're not all robots. We don't all react the same or feel the same or think about things the same. And people, when giving advice, like you got to give different advice for different people. Different strokes for different folks, man. Sly and the Family Stone was right. Lael, hey, how's it going? Just jumping on to say hi. Congrats, Dean. Excited to see what else God has in store for you and the fam. I appreciate it. You know what you are?
Mr. Unlimited.
Oh no, he messed up genders.
Mr. Unlimited.
All right.
All right, let's talk about something, guys. I'm going to take the chat down just for a sec here as I try to find it. Where's the chat? Where did it go? Okay. We're going to bring in something because the other day something happened and I posted about this on the community tab. But I was kind of just like, yep, that makes so much sense to me. So I talk a lot about, some of these teachers, and one teacher in particular, I probably talked about the most here on this channel, even though people give me the most hate about John MacArthur. It's not him. It's probably the most, like the pastor I talk about the most. It's probably Mark Driscoll. And that's actually, like, here in the basement, I recorded a video that I was reacting to some of the stuff in the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, a specific episode. I think it was like episode 2 or 3. And that's the video that pretty much propelled my channel forward and, got the audience really interacting. And all of a sudden, something real's going on with this YouTube channel. So thanks, Mark. But I always suspected, I've come to learn at least that there are so many people who put out content, like these guys who are media savvy. They put out all this content. They got the podcast. They put out the videos of their sermons. They clip it out, and there's like shorts for forever. Just like one sermon gets split up into like 60 shorts that they cram into your feed. But like these guys who are so tech savvy, and they go around and they do a bunch of marketing, and they're very concerned with their image. Usually these guys watch stuff about them. They watch all the things. And so this has happened a couple times where people I've talked about here on the channel have reacted. Sometimes it's been through a private message. Sometimes it's been through a third party, of them reaching out to me or telling me, hey, let's have a phone call. You know, like I've gotten some weird stuff over the last couple of years about like, I need to get a hold of this guy. And it's like, well, no, make a video, make a video. I don't need to have a conversation with you. Like Dale Partridge being like, well, if you don't give me your phone number, you're a coward, like that kind of stuff that he said publicly. So I don't care about saying it publicly. And Dale, I'm pretty sure you still watch. So like, what's up, man? But like these guys, they all watch the stuff. And sometimes people go like, Dean, are you sure? Are you sure they watch the stuff? And then we get stuff like this. So on that short, so a little mini penalty box for you. On the short, comments on Mark Driscoll has not changed. Hashtag shorts, hashtag rise and fall of Mars Hill. We get Mark Driscoll coming into it. And this is the real Mark Driscoll account. I can't confirm that it's actually Mark Driscoll. All right. It might be a member from his team. In other words, one of his family members, because those are pretty much the only people that he trusts. He's not letting the handles for his whole fame making machine of the internet to anyone else but probably a family member. So it's either him or a family member with probably his approval posting this basketball emoji. So again, just for everyone, you might be like, what's the big deal about this? So this was from Twitter where someone was replying to Mark Driscoll and talking about how his ministry hurt them. And Mark Driscoll responded with a GIF of Shaquille O'Neal dunking and pushing someone out of the way after he dunked. And it's like a pretty famous moment in NBA history. And he dunks and he pushes him out of the way and he starts running the other way. And it's supposed to be like, well, get out of my way. To a person that was saying like, you hurt me. And I made this short to just basically say that Mark Driscoll hasn't changed. He's the exact same guy. He's still a bully. He's still mean-spirited. He is a brawler, to use biblical terms. Now, he might not be punching people, although, according to some people who have worked with him, he got physical with them. According to them, that's what they say. That's not known, but that's their stories that they've said it publicly, that he has been physical with people, choking people behind stages when people are getting baptized. All right, like he is a brawler. He doesn't fit the qualifications of a pastor. And I said, like, he hasn't changed those tactics. He's still that same guy. To look at someone who is saying, like, you hurt me, and then to be like, ha ha ha, that's so funny, push out of the way. You're not physically pushing a victim, but like for all intended purposes, you're saying you don't matter. And that's not biblical. And that just shows like he's the exact same guy. And here comes Mark Driscoll to basically just confirm that. Right? Like with this right here, just that basketball emoji, he's basically saying like, forget you, right? Like you don't matter. What you're saying doesn't matter. Like he's mocking what I'm saying of a pastor, like who's pushing victims around, or at least online, being a bully online. And here he is to just be like, well, you calling me a bully doesn't matter either. I'm going to dribble all day. And I've got some thoughts on that. First, let's just read what I responded with. So I said, classy Mark, also I would very much like to see you try to dribble, maybe in your next attempt at a viral hot take about mother-in-laws, which apparently is like his bread and butter. I don't know what it is about mother-in-laws. I don't know if he hated his mother-in-law, but he just has a lot of videos about mother-in-laws. Don't know what that's about. But he thinks this is a real problem in Christianity, like this pandemic of mother-in-laws. But yeah, so to me, it just confirms that the guy hasn't changed, and he's so narcissistic. Guys, I've got what is it, 5,000 subscribers? Let's get a live look, because let's also celebrate that a little bit. I haven't posted like anything this month, and we've grown by about 500. So 5,540 subscribers. I mean, that's fun and it's cool, and all of you guys matter, especially people who hop into the chat and hit the like button. Just saying. Like, you guys really matter, but also, like, in the grand scope of things, that's a drop in the bucket as far as like online presence. Like, my channel doesn't matter a whole lot right now, like, as far as like making noise online. So the fact that he like is commenting, I think shows just how narcissistic he is. Like, that he's consumed with himself and he's watching all this stuff about himself. And it's just, I've seen this so often with these people that I talk about. Like, when I first started this, I would have never thought that some of the people who've contacted me would contact me, or that some of the people that might not have contacted me, but alluded to me, like the guys at Grace Community Church. John MacArthur's watched one of my videos. I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm like 90% sure that he's watched one of my videos. Austin Duncan, his right-hand guy who just preached for him on Sunday, he's watched several of my videos. Like, these guys, they're other people. I could throw out some names. One that's public is Josh Bice. Josh Bice watches some of my videos. Virgil Walker, who works for G3, he's one of the head guys there. He watches several of my videos. He's subscribed. At least last time I checked, which was a while ago, he's subscribed to this channel. All right. They want to know what I'm talking about. These people are so narcissistic. They can't just like allow someone to like confront, public things that they say in a public way. They have to know, they have to keep tabs. They have to, I don't know, maybe in his mind, he thought that this would intimidate me. I think that might be part of it. But I think most of it is just that he's a narcissist who just watches videos about himself because he's consumed with his own image. And he's just wanting to know what's being said about him all the time, because it's not important about what reality is. It's important what perception is. And so if there's someone who's giving a perception out there that you don't like, you have to let him know that you don't like it. Or that maybe he's just so angry, and that's well known. I mean, the way he went viral was as the cussing pastor, which by definition means that you're probably angry. If you're getting up there and cussing from the pulpit, you're probably an angry person. And we all know the video, How Dare You, and all that kind of stuff. He's shown himself to be an angry person. And all the stories and the rise and fall of Mars Hill. It's not, this isn't going too far into someone's motives or psychology, but he is an angry person. So maybe he just couldn't hold himself back. But that's crazy. The amount of people that watch this stuff to like, kind of keep tabs on what I'm saying and like be like, oh, I can't believe, he's going to talk about me again, and like try to shut me up in other ways, sending messages or going on to Twitter or all that kind of stuff. It's just crazy. So Mark Driscoll, everybody, right here. What a kind person, right? Just being like, well, I'm going to dribble. And all right, it's silly, but also, come on. Like, we know he doesn't play basketball. The guy's like 5'6", okay? Like, I'm not here to be like, if you're short, you can't play a sport, but he's like 5'6". Like, he probably looks a heck of a lot taller on video than he actually is in real life, okay? He is short. He's not picking up a basketball like and dunking it like Shaq. That's a dream, okay? For a guy who in high school is a pretty big deal. Like, someone asked me in maybe Lukewarm No More, or Varhardenstein, or somebody asked me in like the thing about like who would win one-on-one, me versus Mark Driscoll. I'm 6 inches taller. So that probably helps. But like, I was the Michael Jordan of fundy private schools. Maybe not the Michael Jordan. I don't know. What would be the comparison? I was the Ray Allen of fundy private schools. So like, I played a lot of basketball. I could still play pretty well. Even though I'm a bigger guy now, but I can get down the court. I can do everything I need to. I'm pretty sure I can beat Mark Driscoll one-on-one if he ever wanted to. And just the idea of thinking about Mark Driscoll trying to dribble is hilarious to me. He's a baseball player, or at least he's said that he was. I don't know if there's proof of that. he might be a baseball watcher. That guy, such an interesting like change. He used to be like against sports, or at least in his sermons, he would talk about how sports are dumb. Except for like a couple, like he would talk about baseball a little bit, but other sports like football and all that, he would kind of reference it as being like, oh, if you're a jock, you're not really thinking. And like that's tons of sermons from his past. And just to see him like transition into like that more of that bro-y kind of vibe is weird. Also, again, the appearance. The appearance thing is also always so weird to me because like now he's like cowboy and like trying to be like, oh, he wears that same leather jacket and he drives a Bronco and, you know, he's all about, you know, hunting and whatever. And it's just like this guy was driving an Escalade wearing puka shells on KOMO 4 News in Seattle. Like, what is like that wasn't that long ago. How do you go from that to that? You know, like someone is trying to manage their appearance. And I guess that's really what that was about too. We brought the chat back up just for you, Johnny Appleseed. And he says, yeah, Dean, I actually found your channel because of the Mark Driscoll situation. At least something good came out of it. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. A lot of people did, you know, and it might not have been like that first video. It might have been, you know, one of the later ones, but you know, yeah, people, and it's a testament to how valid some of the things I talk about Mark Driscoll. It's not about me. It's about like Mark Driscoll's bad news. And like so many people are either realizing that or have known it for years and they're trying to find someone who's going to be like, he's bad news. And there's just not a lot online about how he's bad news. There's so many people who are just like waiting in line to shake his hand online and just be like, hey, you know, like we agree about some of this political stuff. You know, all of a sudden he cares deeply about all these political things and just like, well, he didn't care about those things for about 20 years, you know, at Mars Hill. Like he never talked about that stuff. Why is that? But he's passionate. He's a passionate culture warrior. Or it's just another ploy. All right. You're my church news. Thank you. RJ says. Johnny says, one-on-one, Dean versus Driscoll. Who would win? There you go. Jesus, because he always wins. Oh, or is it love wins? You got to ask Rob Bell. No, I'm just kidding. As a Texan who has won a belt buckle bigger than your fist, he is a really bad pretend city cowboy. Yeah, I get that. Like, I bet you there's so many people that like maybe see him online and then like meet him in real life and they're just like, yeah, you're not what I thought you were. Because it's just like, it's clear. The guy's from Seattle. Again, puka shells, Escalade, riding right past the Space Needle, talking about his church plan to KOMO 4 News. Like you can find that interview right now. Like he's not a cowboy in like Bronco. It's just like nuts to me. Like, come on. Matt says, seeing how people talk about a certain Republican presidential candidate, I'm not at all surprised they love Driscoll. Let's talk about that. Anyone else here super disappointed? Like, I don't care about politics. I really don't. I used to be very politically active way back in the day, back in Fundy World. And now it's left such a sour taste in my mouth that I don't care. I don't care about politics. I know that it has a practical effect in people's lives, but at the same time, it also kind of doesn't. Like, as far as like the morality of it, it doesn't. Like actual legislation, of course, but like all like this grandstanding about we're on the right side, and it's just like nothing ever actually gets done. I'm sure there are people who are like, well, that's so childish, and these things can have practical effects, and you know, look at Roe v. Wade and blah blah blah, whatever. Like there's some truth to that, but it's such like a toxic landmine that I just stay away from it. That being said, it is nuts to me that Trump is going to get reelected. Like, and I say that, like, I think it's pretty clear at this point. It's just going to happen. Like, I don't know how it happened. Like, I've been out of the United States for a while, so maybe I'm part of the problem. You know? But if I was there, things would be different. No one. But it's just really like these are the two best. Like, that's what I always think of. Like, out of 350 million people, these are the two guys who just like, yep, this is who we want. Nuts. The things that he's being accused of still, the things that he's in court about, like the fact that this guy might like have to like actually pardon himself. Like he might actually have to do that. And like people are like, yep. And like all these Christians, especially like the Joel Webbins and all these people, like they're just like over the moon about it, and they're so happy, that good old Donnie is going to be back in, or at least be up for it. It's just, do you guys not care about morality at all? Like I know they'd be like, oh well, Biden, and like talk about him, but at the same time, you could have done other people. Like it didn't have to be 1 versus 1. There are so many different options, and there still is. But they're already like, well, if DeSantis is out, then come on. Don't do that. Don't be like, I'm going to support possibly, I'll say papist, and you know that rhymes with a certain word. Probably a papist I will support. And then be like, you guys are bad because, deconstruction is bad. Like, it's just, if they wanted to actually stop deconstruction as like a movement or whatever, like this is not the way to do that. There's going to be a lot more people deconstructing if this is the way that people are going to go. And like, it's one thing to be like, you got to choose the better of two evils, and this is what I'm willing to do. If that's what you think, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if you're like, this is the right way and this is what everyone needs to do, then it's just, come on, man. Like, this is just getting out of hand. At this point, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, it's just like morality just doesn't matter for these people. Like politics matter. They want the right culture, and they're willing to use whoever to get that culture. And it's just like, you do know that's not how culture works, right? Like you can't get like someone who is so anti that culture to put that culture into existence, right? Like these Christian nationalists who are like, we're for Christian nationalism, and that means Trump. Is that a Christian nation? Like, do you get that he doesn't, like, he's not part of you? Why? And you're going to have the think pieces. You're going to have Al Mohler coming out with his like 5 reasons why you should vote Trump. And you're going to get all these people who are silent about all these different issues. And this is the one thing that they'll be vocal about and saying, Christians, you need to do this. You need to, it's not the best. It's like some of these guys will say it's the best, but other ones will be like, it's not the best, but it's the one that we should do. It's the right decision for right now. It's just crazy. And the big Eva guys, they're going to drop all their morals to just be like, yep, this is how we're rolling now. And it's just, honestly, it's despicable to me. Matt says, I already read that. He is Driscoll. The God made Trump ad is so incredibly blasphemous. I haven't seen it. I'm in Canada. Yes, the Driscoll Trump pipeline. It's basically the same. Yeah. I had a guy last night tell me that I'm an antichrist because I don't use my church platform. What does that even mean, David? I had a guy call me an antichrist because I don't use my church platform specifically to promote Trump and Christian nationalism. What? That guy is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, bud. Like, oh man, there will always be wackos. Like, here's the thing, guys. All the wackos got Twitter. Like those 2 guys in the church? They're just like the weird guys. They're not friends either. And they don't want to talk about these things with that other weird guy. But there's always like a couple of these guys at the church. And it's usually never women. But it's usually 2 guys, and they're weird guys. And they have all these views about, the end times. And who is this? And the locusts are Apache helicopters, and, like all this kind of stuff. And they always like trap the pastor, or, oftentimes they don't go for the senior pastor because the senior pastor is like, I actually have to meet with someone. They go for the youth pastor because they know after church, the youth pastor's not busy. And so they just kind of corner him. And they're just like, we have 8 different theories. And they like take turns going at it. And then they start combating. And then sometimes the youth pastor can like slowly back away. And those two will just be fighting about something. Well, all those guys are on Twitter now. So all those weirdos online, it's those guys. And they're just having all these things. So don't take what they say. It's probably in real life for you, but they're let them have their Twitter fights and, block them and do whatever you need to. I mean, his legal team argued that he could assassinate a political rival with SEAL Team 6 and would be unable to be arrested for it unless he is impeached. Great selling point. This is what you want, right? If it's really about policy, why not get behind Nikki Haley? It's such a facade because she's a woman. Did you know that, David? You think Nikki, and you're just like, is that Nicholas? And so they're out. I cannot stand politics. I think they're all liars. I'm pretty much right there with you. RJ says, it is incredibly grieving that many evangelicals and or conservatives see forced morality as how to reach people for the gospel. Completely agree. No, I'm not liberal. I find wrong with all of them. Same here. Matt, if that's a measure of godliness, then I question whether we should even call it Christian nationalism. It's not Christian nationalism. They say it. They put it in the title, so we shouldn't have to question it. But it isn't. Crusader, not an S. It's a Z. Z. Sorry, Americans. Trump idolatry is cancer. Yeah. That's a pretty accurate way to describe it. Trump is more immoral than Haley is liberal. I don't really know anything about Nikki Haley. Politics and me, I'm just over it. But I know who the main players are. RJ says, Carol, I'm with you. I've gotten to praying and asking God to lead me to vote for someone who will accidentally listen to the voice of God. Yeah. Things were better than the Bush days. I think MacArthur said, if we don't vote Christian, we are not saved. He has said that. It's so crazy. From the same stage, he has said that. And then 2 years before that, him and Al Mohler were sitting there and saying, never Trump. Saying oh, well, he's an immoral man and blah, 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 blah. They said that from the stage. They're sitting in their big chairs, leaning back and being like, we so smart, y'all. And, it's just a problem in evangelicalism that people are going to be supporting Trump. Fast forward 2 years. Everyone should support Trump. What? And they think that we don't remember this stuff. It's just crazy. All right. Let's deal with one more thing. I'm going to put the chat away. And let's bring it in. Is this going to work? It is going to work. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the IHOP Kansas City stuff, and I've been wanting to talk about this. This is a little bit older now. This was last week where the guy, Eric Vols, the guy who is basically being the mouthpiece for IHOP Kansas City, and he's doing a terrible job at it. He just keeps on getting up and saying awful things, and some people understand it and some people don't. I did that video where I walked through his statement. We're basically just going to do that again. But I feel like it's important because these guys, they just keep on saying the same stuff and acting like, oh, this isn't a problem. It's like, this is a pretty big problem. So we're going to take a look at this. We'll just be stopping it throughout and making some comments.
I like that vest, General.
So
it's stylish. Good morning, you guys.
Can you guys hear it okay? Let me know in the chat.
This is going to be brief. It won't be uncomfortable like some of the other updates. It's one of the most challenging parts of this job is being associated with uncomfortable feelings. But I also just want to thank you guys for the messages and the support and the prayers. This case has definitely presented some unique challenges, so please keep praying for everyone who's involved. So since General Fuller and the executive committee took over the roles and responsibilities of the executive directorship on December 22nd, that was just 3 weeks ago. I know that's a mouthful, but it's really only been 3 weeks. And The first thing that I want to just ask everyone to keep in mind is when there are reports.
Let's just stop it there for a second. Subtle. Again, this is the thing. He is a marketing guy. And I know some people don't like that I said that what he's doing for them is marketing, but it is. It is marketing. It's leveraging your story in the most convenient way to push your organization forward. And that's marketing. So it's subtle, but what he just did is, guys, be patient with us. It's only been 3 weeks, which is, in a way, it's been 3 weeks, but also it's been years and years and years that this stuff has been going on. So like he's trying to like get sympathy and create like this, like, give us a break. Even with little things like that of being like, well, since the 3 weeks, and it only has been 3 weeks. That's what these people try to do.
Of allegations of misconduct and abuse, especially when it has to do with leaders, it really can present some of the hardest challenges that a ministry could ever deal with.
Yeah, he's right.
It's common for organizations to not know how to properly respond right away. Sometimes reports can actually be ignored or not taken seriously. And there are also times when unintentionally the way that an organization responds can actually harm people that were involved.
Sometimes this happens, guys. Sometimes it happens where things aren't, people aren't listened to, and, things are just like let go, and people get hurt, and sometimes people mess up in the process. This is normal. No, it's not.
The sooner that an allegation is addressed, the more the potential for trauma and pain in the community can be avoided. These are important realities, and this leadership is keenly aware of those realities. I will say that to date, IHOP KC has appropriately handled this case, considering the cards that it has been dealt.
Based off of what? Like, this is the thing. You can't just say, I'm just saying, it's guaranteed that we did the right thing. So far, with what we've been dealing with, we have done, everything right. Based on what standard? Like, who is like the expert that knows this stuff who is saying that? Could you give that? No, because you're not an expert. So maybe you shouldn't say that. But doesn't matter with these guys, because again, it's about the institution. It's about keeping the institution in line, letting everyone know that, these leaders, they're doing the right things. They're doing everything that they should. And so we're just going to say that, given the cards they've been dealt, which is also, again, earning sympathy. So you get it, like it's been a short time, and we haven't had enough time to really deal with this thing properly. So sympathy there, sympathy here of saying we haven't been given all the cards. And if we had been given the right cards, and we'd be able to deal with it in the right way. Say that to the victims, to the survivors. Hey, give us better cards, survivors. They got whatever cards they've been dealt. Okay. Like, you want to talk about getting a bad hand? Like they got the bad hand. Like, don't get up here and be like, oh, if only we had been given this information, then we'd be doing a better job and we wouldn't have messed up. Come on.
And I believe there will be a day when the diligence and the care in which this organization has handled this will be very clear. But today is not the day for that discussion. As General Fuller stated, he's committed to finding the truth.
Someday we will vindicate ourselves publicly. And, we have enough to vindicate ourselves publicly now, but we know now is not the right time to be saying that they're all liars, unless you do it on Twitter, which is what they did. They released a statement that said all these people who've been accusing them, these Jane Does, are liars. Like, they put that on Twitter, not on the video though, and not there at the church, because they know not everyone there at the church, whatever, the International House of not Pancakes, Prayers, I saw that. Was that RJ or someone saying, Carol saying pancakes? It's always easy to jump to that, but no, it's about prayers. They serve prayers, unlimited prayers. You know, it's not a Disney grand, or it's not a Denny's Grand Slam. It's God's Grand Slam. All right. Anyways, they're just trying to create sympathy for themselves and say that we could vindicate ourselves, but we're not going to right now because we know it's not the right time. But even saying that is saying that like it's a way of vindicating yourself.
So that IHOP KC can be in a position to steward a godly and righteous process of healing and reconciliation for all affected parties, both at an individual and a community-wide level. So one of the first things that General Fuller did was he ordered a historic review of reported misconduct. That review is far...
What? You mean you didn't have that? Like, okay. They switched hands with General Fuller. And again, every time they say his name, I'm thinking like, I don't know. He sounds like, you know, in my mind, I think of like Civil War era Union general coming on a horse over the mountain and being like, here's the cavalry. Like that's what I think of. But this General Fuller guy, I guess, has been in charge for a while. And I guess before he got in charge, they didn't even have this. Like they didn't have a historical, like they haven't looked up like how many times this has happened within the organization. Like, I don't know why my camera is being so weird. Is it because I'm over here? Let me put this over here. Let's move this just a little bit. And while I'm messing around with things, guys, this red thing is bugging me. We're going to take that off. Okay, let's keep on going.
From over, but so far we can say that for an organization this size, with 25 years of operating history, over 20,000 staff who've served here, statistically speaking, the number of known incidents is actually quite low.
Okay.
At the same time,
this is where I go, like, I went on to Twitter and I called him a shyster because he is one. And this is where I get this from. Okay. He's trying to minimize, you know, the problem and saying it's not that big a deal. Instead of just like crying over sin and being like, how could we do this as an organization? Like, no, it's just like when you consider the size of our organization, it hasn't happened as much. And it's minimizing the problem. And also, like, based off of what stats, that's always the thing. Like, there's no, like, this guy comes out here and he just like says stuff and he just does the marketing pitch. And there's no reasons for why he says it. There's no data that he gives to say like based off of this or whatever. And I'm sure if you were having a conversation, he'd have something to say. But I guarantee you that's not a church. All right. When he's saying given for an organization our size, he's not saying for a church our size or for a Christian institution our size. It shouldn't happen ever. Ever. Like, it's not, like, you shouldn't be like, oh, well, it's actually not that many times, so we're in the clear. Now, again, people are sinners, and I recognize that. I've been in ministry for a long time. I get that people are sinners, and some people, I've had to do stuff. Like, there are people who go to prison for some of the sins that they do within a church. I've seen that. All right, and it is a reality. So to say, like, you know, of course it's going to happen. It shouldn't ever happen, but of course it's bound to happen because people are sinners. Now, you know, we shouldn't take that as like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do, right? There's obviously lots of stuff that can be do. Like maybe don't give your senior pastor a deadbolt on his door. Like there's a video going around about that. Like that's super creepy. But like there's like lots of stuff that you could do to make sure it doesn't happen. But sinners are sinners and people are going to sin and they're going to sin against each other. You get more and more sinners around. And of course they're going to sin against each other and stuff like this is bound to happen. But for him to come out and just be like, hey, you know what? It's not that bad, because when you think about it, an organization of our size, there really should be more of these. Well, first, based off of what data? Second, are you talking about a Christian institution? 3, no. It should never happen. But yeah, this guy, he just gets up and he just says everything for the organization. This guy, I don't know what he's like as a person. I don't know his mental state. I don't know like his personal loyalties, whatnot. But this is just getting out of hand, where he just gets up and just says stuff like completely out of nowhere based off of no data, and all while trying to bring sympathy to IHOP Kansas City and, basically throwing the survivors under the bus.
We can confidently say that a few of those reported incidents, likely they were not handled properly.
And that is the video that the survivors will be using to sue them, because it's true. If he's getting up on a stage and saying it's likely that these situations were not dealt with, and he's the marketing guy and he's saying that means that it's so much worse than what people know. And he recognizes that there's at least fault, which is going to be what the lawyers will use to get these victims their much deserved justice.
From what we can tell, most of those incidents happened under the watch of leaders who are no longer here, but that doesn't change IHOP KC's responsibility to thoroughly examine and address each case.
And pay for it. But he won't say that. But again, it's just, hey guys, this probably all happened with leaders that aren't here. We're not going to tell you who those leaders are, because probably a lot of them are still in the chairs. Like they're still there. They're just not in leadership anymore. There's probably like a rotation of leaders. Maybe some of them have moved on or passed away. That kind of stuff happens. But you could trust us. Even though we're still operating under the same framework as those leaders who did mess up, and even though nothing has been done to like actually pursue righting some of these wrongs that we acknowledge have been done, you can still trust us though. We're still the good guys. I don't know about that.
Some of the cases are clear-cut and others are not. So we need to be very careful to not blur the lines between the two, and it's going to take some time to make those determinations.
Again, sympathy.
Regardless,
give us more time.
On behalf of IHOP KC, I want to apologize in advance to anyone who has experienced harm here or whose reports were not handled properly.
Okay. All right. I'm not laughing. I feel like that's sincere. Like that he like when I talk about him being a shyster, it's that he's promoting the brand, right? And he's using language that's deceptive to promote the brand. And I think my personal feeling is that he really believes in IHOP Kansas City and what's going on there. And he is trying to just push that forward. I think it's a detriment. Like you need to get things handled first, and then maybe you can put new leadership in and, clean your house first before you start saying, hey, let's have some people over. But when he talks about, I want to apologize in advance for things that have happened in the past, I want you to see how absurd that is. like what? Like, you're talking about things that happened with a D on the end. Like this stuff is in the past. Like I shouldn't have to be like teaching people how time works. But if it happened in the past, you can't apologize in advance. You can't like in advance in the future. I want to get ahead of this and apologize for things that happened in the past. No, that's not how time works. Like, no, you're in the present and you're apologizing for things that were mishandled in the past. No, don't try to like sugarcoat this and market this and be like, see, what I'm doing is really honorable because I'm willing to say that before we even know what these things are. He already knows what they are because he's already acknowledged that it's happened, and he's already acknowledged that some of these were not dealt with properly, so he's admitted fault. So he knows. And then to be like, in advance, what he's trying to do is create this narrative that they are trying to like they're doing the right thing first. But the right thing first is apologizing for the things that they did wrong in the past. So it's not the right thing first. Like it's so weird. So weird.
It will take time, but General Fuller will get to the bottom of all of this. For context, in 2018, the Grace investigation, which most of you I know are aware of at this point, that investigation took almost a year to complete, and it was a narrow scope, only looking at
See that little glitch
case.
there? That little glitch is because he said something that he didn't want said online, and they clipped it out. And he went and said, well, like something about how it was just like this little part that he made a mistake on as far as like an attorney's name or something. But there was something he messed up pretty significantly that he wanted to take that out of what they put out publicly. So if you weren't there in person, that little, however long that was, that's gone. And we don't know. We can only take people, you know, who were there and say like, what did he say? But basically it's just more sympathy of give us a year because, you know, or more than a year because, you know, that scope is so small because it was such a small case and this is bigger.
So we will certainly move as fast as we can, but professional investigations must be done according to a certain legal and ethical standards, and they must be conducted in a way that doesn't cause harm to the parties involved.
Irony is dead. Let's keep going.
And of course, here we're talking about 25 years of history, and General Fuller has only been on the job for 3 weeks. So
Sympathy,
what he's
sympathy.
accomplished in this time frame is remarkable, but we really want
so
to
great,
ask people
guys.
to just be realistic about the time frames in front of us.
That is the equivalent of these megachurch pastors and prosperity gospel preachers who have other prosperity gospel preachers come and preach for them. And before they'd be like, this guy, he's been through it. He is my best friend. You know, if like they just like go through like this like list of all these things and how much this person means to them, even though they've met him probably like for 30 minutes in a green room somewhere at a conference. But they're just like, I would die for this man. Let's have him come on up. And it's just like, okay, whatever. You're just trying to be like the hype man. He's just trying to be the hype man for General Fuller. Again, I'm assuming hair blowing in the wind. Like I know what he looks like, but like in my mind, it's riding over one of those. He's like Christian Bale in like like a late 1800s movie.
There have actually been a few new reports of misconduct that have come in the last 3 weeks, and they were very swiftly dealt with and addressed. And as we've mentioned before, IHOP KC is working with HR experts. So moving forward, no report will be ignored and no form of abuse will be tolerated.
That's great to say, but how should anyone trust them? Right? Like, again, like it's like coming out and saying we have like so few cases for an organization. There's like no data to support that. There's no data to support, you know, like now they're going to deal with things. They know that they didn't deal with things properly before, but they have no oversight. Like obviously things are so messed up. If they're still getting more and more allegations, yeah, I'm not gonna get into it, but I could just say from firsthand experience, you know, when there have been people on staff that have done things, and you put out that call and you say, hey, if there's anyone who knows anything or has experienced anything, come forward. If you're still after a couple months, even with a big organization, like, you know, of course there might be more, right? But like if you're still getting that stuff months in, like you're talking about a huge problem. And like for them, obviously their organization, like their structure is horrific. If this was still happening, if all these things were still happening and you're still getting people coming forward, obviously the structure is not there for accountability. And you're still saying we haven't changed the structure, but you could trust us now. And now moving forward, everything will be dealt with. Like based off of what data? Like you're still the same structure. You're still the same people. Like you need oversight. You need a complete like rehaul of everything you guys are doing behind the scenes. Who answers to who? Where's the accountability to the people who are in the chairs? Like they need to fix so much. So it's just, what are they even talking about here of like now moving forward? I get the sentiment and I want to trust them of being like, I don't think that all these guys are like super evil people. I think they're misguided. I think they're blinded by their loyalty to an organization. But, as someone who's been there, as far as like always wanting to try to think the best of an organization or a church or a leader, you can't do that anymore. Like you just can't, because people keep on showing themselves to be complete fakes, and you can't risk it by just being like, well, I know this guy. Do you? Do you know these people on this leadership board? Do you really?
General Fuller and the division heads have also been hosting meetings with base leaders to provide private updates, untangle some misunderstandings, receive feedback, do Q&As, and also talk about what can be expected for the near-term future here at IHOP KC. I've been able to participate in some of those meetings, and though some of those discussions have not been easy, we do appreciate the honest questions and the pursuit for truth by everyone who's participating. We've also been able to have some one-on-one meetings with those who have expressed strong critique, and we appreciate those conversations.
He's talking about that J.R. Richardson guy. I don't know if you're super familiar with things going on with this story. You probably know that on Twitter, there's a few people who have been very active. And one of them is this J.R. Richardson guy. I literally know nothing about him other than that he's been going at them. I think he went there. Maybe he was even on staff. I don't know. But then they had a meeting, and apparently everything was solved as far as Eric said. And then immediately J.R. Richardson was like, not really. Not really. And he's still going at him. So like he's trying to paint it as like, we're taking everyone into consideration. We're dealing with our critics. We're dealing with all these issues. We're trying to be really honest and transparent about what we're doing. But at the same time, he's nuancing everything and burying everything under like this language that's super deceptive. Like he might be having meetings, but he's not getting anything resolved as far as some of these critics.
And as schedules permit, we'll continue to have those meetings. So please don't stop requesting those. So where are we at with regards to the investigation into the allegations of Mike Bickle? IHOP KC's independent investigator has been hard at work for 6 weeks. She has been retained to conduct a truly independent investigation, and she has the qualifications to find out the truth. IHOP KC has also confirmed that a final report will be released directly from the investigator. That means that IHOP KC is not going to have the ability to see the report first and edit the content before it gets released. It will be independently and directly released from the investigator.
That sounds good, but let's just listen to that first part one more time.
IHOP KC has also confirmed that a final report will be.
Last time I talked about these guys, we talked about how they described that there would be a report that would get out there. And I said, like, what is being buried in that is that, one, you don't know who this report is coming from, whether it's coming from the third-party investigators or from IHOP Kansas City, whether it's like everything or whether it's a summarization of everything. And with that meaning, like some things are just going to be edited out, or that people don't need to know that kind of stuff. And we got little guy coming like really hard. H thinks it's really funny to come and interrupt streams now. Like he's giggling his head off as he comes down here to be like, can I have this? And it's like, you can't have that. But I think he went upstairs. What was I saying? These guys, they want to say that there's a report that's going to be coming, but they say a final report. So they threw in final thinking like that will sound so conclusive, right? But they don't say the final report, meaning that it is like everything that they found and they're just pushing it out there and letting people be the judge. They're saying a final report will come out, that something is going to be put out. And now what's good is that they're saying that it's coming from this third party investigative team, which, you know, there have been all kinds of people who've talked about like what that organization actually is. But let's just take them at their word and say, okay, it is a third party investigation. And, you know, it's like all of that. To say a final report is coming, and I know it sounds like I'm really picking at words, but I feel like you have to with some of this marketing stuff. What that means to me is that they're going to give a report and it's going to come from them. But what that isn't being said, they're saying like, oh yeah, we won't be able to see it first off. But is that like they got a report and they edited that stuff and then they say a final report, you know, like, oh, this is the final one. Like, is it everything or is it the final report or a final report? You know, like, is there another report that's coming and people get to edit that, or that they get to have, maybe they don't get shown that report, but they get to have input on what kind of stuff gets put out to the public, and then they make a final report. Like, this is the kind of stuff that really matters. And I know it sounds like it's just like, wait, you're splitting hairs over one word? Yeah, because that word matters. The final report matters, not a final report. Like, that stuff really matters. Go talk to a Mormon about the Trinity. That stuff matters. Let's finish this up.
Released directly from the investigator. That means that IHOP-KC is not going to have the ability to see the report first and edit the content before it gets released. It will be independently and directly released from the investigator.
That report will be.
Though we don't know the
report before
details,
then?
we know that the investigator has conducted numerous interviews with individuals who claim to have information related to the allegations against Mike Bickle. But we also know that she has not been permitted to speak to any of the alleged victims or members of the advocate group. And as a result, IHOP-KC still has not been able to verify the allegations that were presented by the advocate group last October. But IHOP-KC wants the truth. We're going to get the truth no matter what it is. But the reality is this. In order for this to work, there really are two requirements that we need to see met. The first, the investigation must have the ability to be truly independent. And we have that. But number two, the investigation must legitimately appear to those as truly independent, to those that are involved. It has to appear to be truly independent to the parties involved. So those are related but not identical concepts. So we have number one covered. We have an independent investigator, but number two is the crux. We need community buy-in. IHOP's conviction is that a complete investigation should be conducted into the allegations of misconduct, and we believe our investigator would be able to accomplish this. But the advocate group does not feel comfortable with our approach, and we want them to feel comfortable. We cannot verify the allegations against Mike Bickle without their cooperation, and this community cannot find rest until it has the truth about those allegations.
Poor us.
So General Fuller has met with key members of the advocate.
That is not the survivor's fault. All right? That is not the victim's fault of, oh, well, we just have unrest. Like, because I bet things are chaotic as heck over there. All right? Like, there's probably so much feuding and going back and forth and, like, different strategies about how to handle different things. And, like, it creates a lot of chaos for an organization. I'm sure that's true. But that's nothing compared to what the survivors have gone through. And it's not their fault. If they're wanting to make sure that legally they're not going to have anything come back to bite them in the butt, and then also that actual justice is done, including reformation of the restructuring of accountability there at IHOP Kansas City. All right. They are free to pursue that however they want. It is not their fault that they don't want to cooperate with this shady organization that has proven themselves to be shady by saying, like they just said it, like this guy just said it. They've had it going on for so long, right? Like they know of cases that have been mishandled. So why should the survivors trust them now, right? I think that they're probably going about it a better way of going with an organization that they can trust that has been proven to be trustworthy when it comes to these kinds of situations. And what he's trying to do is to publicly guilt trip them and say it's really on them. It's really on them for not coming to us with this information and going about this a different way. And until they come to us about this, one, we can't move forward, which is convenient when you don't want to do stuff. But also, we can't have rest as an organization. So it's really on them. Everything that's going on right now, all like the chaos of this, it's really on the survivors. Like this is really bad about how to handle like all of this. I know some people might just watch this stuff and be like, I don't know, I don't see it. But when you really dig through these words and understand like the implications, like the way that IHOP Kansas City has done this is horrific. Like it's just a really, really awful handling of the situation, even if their motives are good. All right. Again, I'm not going after motives. All right. I think there's some blind trust of leaders and the brand there at IHOP Kansas City by specifically this guy and others. But I'm not going to go into motives for why they're doing these things. I'm saying that what they're doing is messed up, and their words, like there are implications to what they're saying here. But let's finish this thing up.
Group on multiple occasions and in multiple settings in an effort to hear their concerns and establish trust. And with authorization and direction from General Fuller, the David House Agency has been working privately with the consultant of the advocate group on a step-by-step approach toward a mutually agreed upon investigation moving forward. This would be one that the alleged victims would have the ability to agree on and accept. To be clear, we have not yet reached an agreement, but we are hopeful that we will. IHOP KC's focus remains a thorough and complete investigation of the reported allegations, and IHOP KC pledges to then implement any and all policy changes, procedures, and cultural changes to ensure that IHOP KC does not travel down this difficult road again. So we ask that you cover this process in prayer, especially in the coming weeks. Jesus bless you guys.
Okay. So let's summarize like that ending. All right. Basically what he's trying to say is that we're going to do the right things. We're going to do the right things. We're going to do everything that this third-party investigative team, which a lot of people have talked about, and it's not really an investigation, like it's more just like HR rep. But you know, I don't know too much about the organization, so I'll stop there. But people are saying that. But like they're saying, like we'll follow whatever they think. Well, it doesn't sound like they're like the best experts on this specific field. It doesn't sound like they're super involved with churches. And like I know, again, this isn't a church, which is a problem theologically. But like I'm going to keep on moving forward as if it is a church. It's a place of worship, all right, which to me is a church. They just don't have the right leaders, the right accountability for it being an actual biblical church. But they're trying to act like that's fine. So they're moving forward and saying like, oh, it's this third party investigation like firm that we've hired. They're going to give us the tools to make sure this stuff never happens again. But whether they're going to say that publicly is something else. They like moving forward. What IHOP Kansas City needs to do is to cave to Boz and this group that these survivors, these people who've been abused, like both spiritually and also physically, like all of it. Like there's so much that goes into like the whole idea of a religious leader taking advantage of you, like that. There's so much there. So cave to them, give them what they want so the truth can come out, and stop being like it has to be our way. And even if that means losing money, which I'm assuming is part of it right now because they hired this firm. And I'm sure that it was super expensive because, basically they're trying to cover the brand. So I'm assuming like there's so much money wrapped up in that, and already hours and hours and hours of an investigation done. And so to double that would probably be a huge detriment financially. Eat the cost. Eat the cost. Just swallow it and just be like, hey, we're going to move forward with you guys because that's the right thing to do. Make it right by the people who've been wronged. All right. That's Christianity. That's Zacchaeus, right? The people that he stole from, he returned it to them. Like, do that. Return it to them. All right. Just cave to them, move forward with them so that you want to talk about getting peace within your, place of worship, congregation, whatever. Like, you want peace there, cave to them. Like, and everyone would be happy with it. Like, maybe people in the organization wouldn't, because there might be stuff that comes out. And maybe there are some people who are pushing. Like, organizations, the bigger they are, it's easier to hide, like some of the shadiness of different individuals. So I'm sure that there are people on that organizational team that are trying to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen because they know certain things will come forward. And then that report, don't do a final report, and don't try to be like, oh, it's like this shady thing of how we can say that it's everything without it being everything. Just do everything. Like, it's going to come out anyways, most likely. Like, if you've learned anything, go the rise and fall of Mars Hill. We talked about Mark Driscoll earlier. Like, the rise and fall of Mars Hill, it shows like things just come out. So just get ahead of it and just say like, hey, we're just going to release everything and let the cards fall where they may. And maybe that means that IHOP Kansas City folds. But if that's what God wants, then and if that's the right thing and you release all the information, you let the truth out, I think God's going to be okay with that. So just let it happen. I don't know why Christians fight so hard for an institution or a specific congregation or a leader. Sometimes it does happen with a leader, a specific leader, and they fight so hard for that. It's like, do they not trust God at all? Like God says, Jesus says that, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So are they saying God needs this one church? No, he doesn't. There's you're in the United States, okay? You're in Kansas City. There are literally hundreds of gospel preaching churches in Kansas City. God doesn't need IHOP Kansas City. God doesn't need Mike Bickle. God doesn't need fill in the blank of any church, any institution, any specific leader. God will raise up someone else to continue his work. So stop fighting so hard and using dirty tactics and false statements and deceptive language to try to accomplish saving something that you think is worthwhile. If God wants it saved, he'll save it. You don't have to use, these backhand statements and try to manipulate certain things. Just let the truth come out. Like Michael Caine and The Dark Knight Rises, let the truth have its day. Okay, just let it out, and God will deal with the cards. Put all the cards out there. God will deal with them. And, if that means that IHOP Kansas City folds, it's going to be okay. Guys, I remember, it wasn't for these kinds of reasons, but my sophomore year, my Bible college closed. And all of us were like, oh, how could this happen? What's going to happen to us? And all these older people were like, but the college, it's been here for 60 years. It's needed. No, it's not. There's so many other Bible colleges. It's fine. You could be hurt. You could be sad. Something that you loved or something that you put so much effort into over the years and you've invested in, it goes away. Okay. It's sad for a moment, but stop acting like it's the end of the world. And definitely don't use ethics that don't fit into the Christian life at all to accomplish trying to save this Christian institution. It doesn't make any sense. Just let the truth out, support these survivors, and most likely the people there, maybe not everyone in the leadership, maybe there are some people who are working against that, but the people there will support it. If they love Jesus, if they really care about Jesus, they're going to care about survivors. They're going to care about handling things properly. And so you may lose some people, but I think the people there will overwhelmingly support you if you do that. Like, because this isn't like the IHOP Kansas City stuff has nothing to do with the people who are sitting in the chairs, or at least, well, maybe some. But the vast majority of people who are sitting in those chairs, they're there to worship. They have no idea about what's going on behind closed doors, and they don't care. They're there to worship. And if you tell them, hey, we've dealt with things properly, and you have like this like moment where you can actually prove it with the survivors, I think that people will support you. So why fight so hard against this thing? Like, just support them and move forward. And it might cost you money, might cost you some people, but I think the vast majority of people will stick with you. I think that, you know, doing the right thing actually matters, like that God will bless it and be like, hey, you know, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Not maybe it might not look the same way as you might think for other things. All right. It's not, I'm not talking about a prosperity gospel or something like that, that the organization will continue or whatever, but you'll please God with how you handle it, which matters a ton as a Christian. And then I think it will just work out better than hiding it, being deceptive, and taking like this lawyer approach to everything and trying to word things in the best way possible and spin marketing and all of that. Just don't do it. I think that's probably the thing that we could learn the most from this whole kerfuffle, is to just be, when something is known, just let the truth out and support the survivors, support the abused. And you know what? If that means that leadership gets thrown under the bus for a little bit, their reputation gets tarnished, and maybe, you know, something that was said wasn't true, then people will find that out. And like, if we've learned anything with things going on in the political world, you could overcome a lot of accusations. So it's not the end of the world for someone to move forward with a tarnished reputation based off of, you know, false allegations. So just move forward with the investigation and let the truth come out. I think that's far better. Let's take a couple of your comments, and then I'm going to make supper because I do that sometimes. Oh yeah, there's one that got banned. Let's see. Matt Willie has to appear to those involved that it is independent. That's very odd wording. Yeah, he put it that way to basically say, well, it is independent, but they just want it to have the appearance of being independent. In other words, they're asking for something that isn't necessary at all, and they're being too needy, and it's kind of ridiculous, but we're going to work with it anyways because we want to work with them. Like that's kind of what is trying to be said there. Julie says there needs to be a true third party who puts both sides, a true third party who both sides agree upon to come in and find the truth. IHOP Kansas City has hired and retained their attorney. This is not independent. It is so sad, right? So many people on Twitter have done like a way deeper dive into that aspect of the organization that they hired. So I'll leave that for them. But it is not a typical third-party investigation. Wendy, what's up, Wendy? Community is filled with people who support it and still support the leadership. You are right. Not the survivor's fault, and true justice is very rare. Yep, why trust now? You got to give them reason. Like at this point, you just like got on a stage and said like, hey, we haven't dealt with this the best in past, but moving forward, we're definitely going to. So trust us now. It's just like, why? What has changed? Like nothing. Like different people, but it's still the same structure. And the tactics that they're using on stage, I certainly wouldn't trust them. And David says this sounds like more calculated spin than a living body of believers. Yeah. I don't know too much about IHOP Kansas City, about who goes there and what's going on there. It looks like a church to me. but they obviously have had some real issues with leadership. Good HR protects the number one asset, their employees. I've been protected by HR. There are good resources to help. If the church would be a learner, the Bible has help. If the church would be, the Bible has help if they want to be a learner. Yeah, no, the Bible can help you. Like maybe if you're going to act and function as a church, that you have biblically qualified elders, that would probably be a great place to start. But a lot of churches don't have that either. So Wendy says, so many people idolize the leaders, J-Mac, Ravi, Bickle, Driscoll, on and on. Yeah, it just keeps on going. And Matt Willis says, this is the same feeling I have with the SBC. If it goes away, it won't be the end of Christianity, right? Like the SBC, like those Baptists are still going to be Baptists, y'all. Like if the SBC goes under, there's just going to be all those Baptist churches. They'll start something else, or they'll fracture into a couple different things. They'll still, the gospel will go out. It's going to be fine. Matt says, so much of this reminds, yep. Worried about money. All right. My kids are done with Toy Story 3, and I'm assuming they probably want supper here pretty quick. So we are going to end the stream there. Thank you for hanging with me. Say goodbye to the yellow wall, the basement. The basement is done. Hopefully next time you will see me in a glorious new studio, or at least an interim studio. And then the real studio is in the summer, hopefully. But we're going to make it look cool. It's going to be awesome. Probably be back, not next Monday, but the Monday after that. That is my goal. So we're moving this weekend. And hopefully a week from Monday, so 2 weeks from today, we'll be back to normal. Underdog theology moving forward. I'm going to try to clip some of these things out, talking about Mark Driscoll, talking about the IHOP Kansas City stuff. And yeah, I will see you then, I guess. Thanks for hanging with me, guys. Bye-bye from the basement. Dean signing out from Underdog Studio 1.0.